every single one of you guys in here is a walking brand. And single-handedly, if you want to get more deals, raise more private money, have more influence, the fastest way, it's simple, but it ain't easy, is to build a what? A brand. What does a brand consist of? What does a brand look like? When you think of Christian, what do you think of?
Scam.
Scam. That's right. But no, but you think of mobile home parks, think wholesale, you think Big Mama Rude, or you think of, the silly shit I do on social media. And I can tell you single-handedly, building a brand has been the most powerful thing I've done in real estate. In real estate, you hear what I just said? In real estate. Because half of my deals that I've bought has been from building a brand, right? So, and it wasn't like, this polished version you see now on social media is not what I was like 8 years ago, right? I didn't even look at social media. You know when I looked at social media? When I was taking a crap in the mornings. That's it. Okay? That's the honest to God truth. That's what I thought about social media, because I didn't see how powerful it was, right? And it wasn't until about 7-8 years ago, Matt?
2016? 17?
Yeah. So 7 years ago.
Has it been 7 years?
Yeah, 16. 7 years ago, I went and listened to a guy named Grant Cardone before he was, this big, massive real estate or entrepreneurial celebrity, and he talked about, how important it is to build a brand, right? And I was like, man, I guess if I'm gonna do big things in real estate, and I guess I got to build a brand, right? So I ended up hiring Grant Cardone, which got transferred to Robert, which Robert was working for Grant at the time, and helped was doing all the branding and promotion. And do you remember the first video I sent you?
Yes.
How terrible was it?
It wasn't great. It wasn't that good, no.
How many times did you redo it?
I think like 3 times?
3 or 4 times?
3 or 4 times?
To send it to him?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, dude, that's not who you are. Like, you're too unauthentic, right? And what I'm trying to tell you guys is that if you want to go from where you are now to where you want to be exponentially faster, you need to build a personal brand and a business brand, right? Who in here would like to build a personal brand or a business brand? Half of you guys? Good. What do you think that looks like? Who here is putting out content? Not very many people, maybe 5, 6 people, right? Sales goat, he's putting out content. That's why I knew how bad of a sales guy he was, but I really know how badass of a sales guy was because he's putting out all kind of awesome content. Y'all know I do mobile home parks because I'm putting out awesome content, right? So you guys got to understand that if you want to take it to the next level, you don't have to build a brand, but you're gonna find deals 10 times faster by people knowing what you're looking for and who you are and how you can help, right? And it doesn't have to be a national brand like I have with, because I have a coaching and consulting company. I'm talking even just a local brand, right? Cody, you built some of a local brand. People, when they think Cody DeVille, they think, oh, that guy does land development, right? So it doesn't have to be this big, huge brand. You just need to be known. I'm sure people in Murfreesboro, in Nashville, know that when they say your name, they think you build construction, high-end houses, right? I see your stuff. You're putting it all over social media, all your beautiful homes. So that's an example of building a brand. But I want you guys to listen to Robert and how he helped me, and we're going to talk back and forth. And who's here is interested in building a brand? Okay, about half the crowd. Okay, good. So who would like to know what the first step to building a brand is? Okay. So the easiest, simplest way I'm going to tell you, and Robert can interject on this. This is how every single day I put out content as that. I go problem, reaction, solution, content. You see what I'm saying? If I have a problem in real estate or business or something happens, I'm going to write that down. Problem, reaction, solution, and I build a piece of content around that, of how I solve that, and that creates what? Value. You see how simple that is? You guys are your own worst enemy. Who's worried about people talking about you on social media? That's everybody. Y'all ain't bullshitting me. Every single person right here doesn't want to talk constantly because you're worried about what your aunt, your mom, your cousin is going to say about you. So if you want to do it the fast way, like I did it when I got on social media, you know what the first thing I did before I even started putting out content? I blocked and deleted every single person I knew locally. That's no bullshit. That guy's my wife. Because I knew I was going to.
Well, it depends on what you want to do, though.
Yeah.
I don't always want to block locals.
Yeah, well,
You want to build a local brand.
yeah, well, if you build, yeah, let me back up. If you're building a local brand, you don't want to do that. But I was building a coaching and consulting company, but I knew I was going to get attacked by haters, right? You're also going to get attacked by haters even if you're building a local brand for your business. But this is the 5 simple, no bullshit way to build a brand in your business. So Cody, what would be an example of that, a problem, reaction, solution, piece of content that you can put on social media?
I mean, I just had a phone call with an engineer. There's a ditch in a subdivision, and they want to replace it with pipes, so he's asking me questions and stuff like that. You know, so solving that problem on the fly, you know, 4 states away, you know,
That's a piece of valuable content that you could put and make a reel. Say, hey guys, you know, I know you guys know me as Cody, I develop land. This shit ain't easy, right? I mean, I just got a call, I'm in Tennessee, and I just got a call, and this, and this happened, and now I'm gonna have to do this, and this, but see, if I would've done this beforehand, I could've probably solved this, right? So you would've gave value based off of that. And you have to figure out in your market how you can do that to give value. And if you give value, people wanna watch you. Because you think people don't wanna watch you because you're worried about your likes. Right? If I worried about my likes, then I wouldn't care. I get a lot of likes, but a lot of people probably don't like my stuff that still come to my events or still send me deals, right? So, Robert, I want you to talk about how they can. Well, first of all, I want you to introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
Just being respectful.
Yeah. This is Robert Syslo. So Robert's been doing branding, marketing, sales, advertising for how many years now?
20?
20 years.
Yeah.
Worked with some of the biggest names in the industry,
Yep.
Grant Cardone.
Yeah, I've traveled all across the world. I've been to China, I've been to Latin America. My big claim to fame was really working with Grant and taking his business from, when I started there were 7 people. When I left, there were like 160. Right? And so my whole journey has always been centered around production, storytelling, expressing messages, and really helping people communicate their value in ways that maybe they can't. And we'll dive into all of this stuff as I go through my little talk here. But for me, the brand is senior to everything. Some people agree with that, some people don't. But for me, that's the entryway to your business. It's the first point of contact. Even a sales call is technically a branding action in my viewpoint, but a brand is the senior most thing you have to have in order for things to succeed forward. So that's why for me, the brand should be your biggest asset. It shouldn't be an afterthought. I feel like a lot of people think social media and posting and all of these things is kind of like not important, and it's an afterthought. We don't need to get to it. We don't have to worry about it right now. But you're all here because of Chris. I know Eric can attest to that. He's got a killer brand he's working on. And if you just look at Cardone and what he's done, you got an idea of what the power is if you do it at that level. But realistically, I really want to impart that getting caught up in, okay, this has to be perfect, and I have to have hundreds of thousands of likes. I have to have hundreds of thousands of messages. I have to have all these things. None of that really matters because you're not in a popularity business when you're building a brand. Okay, you're trying to get paid. That's what branding is. Your brand to get paid.
That was a nugget.
Yeah. You're not in the popularity business when you're building a brand. You're building a brand to get paid. Yes, you're trying to provide value. Yes, you're trying to provide a service. But when you get caught up in this direction of, I don't have enough likes, or I'm frustrated because I'm just not growing, the truth of the matter is that you really only need 1 or 2 conversations that's going to change your life today, right? So for me, that's how I approach marketing. Yes, we want ROI. Yeah, all those things are important. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But I want to really set the correct mindset that you're supposed to have with branding. The reason why I say that is because I remember the day Grant came into the office, and I use this as an example, but he wasn't really spending a lot on advertising. He was probably spending, I don't know, maybe like $250,000 a year total. And right around 2017, he comes into the office and he says to us on the web team at that time, he goes, look, I want to spend, $1 million a month on Facebook, $1 million a month on YouTube, $1 million a month on LinkedIn. I don't care. And everybody in the web team was like, you're out of your mind. Like, this is crazy. And you know what his response was? He just said, I don't really care. I just want people to know my name. That's all he cared about. And if you look prior to 2017 and you look from 2017 onward, there's a monumental shift in that guy's brand because he had that attitude. It wasn't about ROI. It wasn't about, well, I spent $3 million, I should make $6 million. It was, I just want people to know my name, I'll take care of the rest, right? So the brand became, and if you watch all of his content, it was this basically, right? If you go back to the early stuff, and this is what we do and some of the things that I do with my clients is, we focus on problems. I want to know all the problems in the real estate space. 70% of our client base is in real estate, whether that's wholesalers, investors, construction. That's who we service. And every single one that we work with, I want to know all the problems that are connected to that company, to that individual's world, whether they're big, small, whatever, because that gives me a foundation of what a brand actually is. You guys have that written down? Because I'm going to erase this. Right? Now, Eric said something that I really loved this morning, and it parallels to what branding actually is. And he was talking about how sales is a contact sport, right? The guy with the most numbers makes the most calls. He's going to have that interaction. You're not going to get any deals unless you have contact. Branding is also a contact sport, just a little bit differently. And if you're doing it right, okay, you would be able to, as Eric said, you'll get people to know, like, trust who you are, right? But the goal of branding and content is really to just close the gap between I don't know you to I would like to do business with you. That's what you should be going for. If I can make that gap a lot smaller through content, advertising, marketing, content creation, which is really what a brand is, people are going to be able to do more business with you. My skill and what we do with our clients all across the board is that the whole front-end sales process, I try to have that handled before they get on the phone with you. So it's more of a call of just like, I'm ready to go, right? Because I'm trying to attack everything on the front side. Because as much as you might not think social media is important, there are people that do think social media is important, and there are people that will invest a lot of money with you via social media. For my company alone, I'm getting 40 to 50 messages a day, just inbound off of organic content. We're doing $20,000, $30,000 deals off that just because I promote so much, right? So the whole traction, the whole arena of why we're doing this is because I want to close that gap. And I just want to get paid today so that I can continue to grow my business, right? You're all here because you follow Chris in some capacity, probably found on social media, right? Would you say everybody in this room found you on social?
We all found it on social media.
Yeah, Chris took his whole identity and ran with it when we started working. Like he said, he didn't place any importance on social media until we started working together, and really he was following what Grant was doing, and we came in the scene and showed him how to communicate online. And he followed that formula. What's the problem? Okay, here's my thought on it, and I'm just going to promote that. That's it. There really is no silver bullet to branding. There is no silver bullet to marketing. Now, my company, we do content creation. We do email marketing, we do advertising, we do all of those things. But none of those things work unless I have content or a brand. And that is a crucial, crucial error that people make, especially when they go to advertising. The very first thing they want to do is they want to start spending money on ads, but they have no presence. They have no identity. They have no reason for anybody to want to communicate with you, right? And so if you've ever spent money on marketing before, and it failed, I can tell you it's because the brand didn't exist, more or less. Now, in all situations, it's probably not applicable, but I would say 95% of those situations, you're not going to get a successful return from your advertising campaigns unless you build an adequate presence online. So what does a brand consist of? I'm going to tell you what that is right now so you just have a clear picture. Right? So for me, a brand is centered around content creation. So what is that? That's going to be your videos, that's going to be photos, that's going to be articles, anything along those lines. It's going to be centered around, your graphics. It's going to be centered around your website. It's going to be centered around your emails. Anybody see me writing a word logo here? I haven't written a logo at all because that's not really important. What is important is your name. That's probably one of the most important things. Your social media posts are going to be your brand. Your sales calls are going to be your brand, and then your advertising. So this, to me, when someone says, hey, we need to brand, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about colors. Yeah, okay, that's a part of it, and we make things look really cool. I love doing that. That was my claim. I still do it to this day, just really working on how do I present you or somebody in the biggest, greatest light I can. But if you wanted to know what the fundamentals are of a brand, that's this here. So whether you're starting or you've started and you're missing one of these pieces, it has to get in at some point, in some way. You're doing all these different things, right? You have all that set up across the board, right? Now, something interesting, and maybe Chris, you could talk about this a little bit, is that, and we've brought this up, is like, is everybody brandable?
Yeah.
Because, who was I talking to? We were talking at lunch today. What did you tell me today about branding? The confront thing.
I was kind of talking to him, and we were talking about somebody that went in, they started really hard, and then they kind of just stopped, and I'm like, oh my God.
Hard stop. Yeah. Why would?
The branding, I did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was mainly because I got to look at myself, and I was like, holy shit, that's me, because that's what the branding guy put together. And I was like, wait, I got to do this, and it just pokes holes in everything that you think in your head.
Yeah, so the first thing that usually happens is you get really excited about, oh yeah, I could do this. I'm going to build a brand. I'm really going to do this. And you start to build it, and then 2 months go by, and you're like, oh my God, this is a lifelong commitment. Or in that case, you realize, wow, there's some holes in my business that I didn't realize existed, right? Because now you're stepping out onto a stage, and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a simple thing, but the next thing that's going to happen is that it's going to expose everything about yourself. The guys that were talking about systems and processes before, I love that entire conversation because I just spent the last month and a half doing exactly that. I was like, we need systems, we need to track everything, we need to put this in place, because I went out really far and I was like, ooh, exposed, I need to fix this. Holy shit, I got so many messages coming in, what am I going to, right? But it reinforced my brand because it gave me more content, and now it shows my own evolution as an entrepreneur that I can then go back and reach into the marketplace at another level that I wasn't at before, right? So all I'm looking for are connection points. I want connections with people. Now, when I say this, I'm not talking about a call. Yes, that's important. I would like to make a phone call, but I want a point of reality. I want a point where you and I can agree on something. If I can get one, we could probably do a deal. We could probably do business together, right? So when we first start working with somebody, and Chris wrote this earlier about problems, I have everybody just make a list of like 10, 20, 25 different avenues or problems that they solve with their company. And you should do this. Like, you should just make an entire list because you talk about it every day on the phone when you speak to somebody. Whether you're doing the same transaction over and over and over again, you're still encountering people that are actually in communication with you that are looking to you to solve a problem. You could amplify that by making that as part of your fundamental marketing strategy. Where's Juan? Where's he go? Is he here? He left? Okay. I remember he came to me a few months ago, and he's like, man, I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to promote into the marketplace. I asked him 3 questions, and I built a 90-day marketing plan for him in like 5 minutes. I'm like, this is everything that you need to talk about, right? So what forms connections? So this is going to be problems. Obviously, we already mentioned that, right? Problems, we've mentioned solutions, but we've also mentioned your own viewpoints, right? So how do you approach business? Why do you approach business this way, right? Eric's sales strategy, the way that he does his sales is different than the way Cardone does his sales, is different than all these other sales guys do. So he promotes that. That gives him an advantage. How you guys approach real estate investments, how you approach investing, You know, how you guys find off-market deals. Somebody was talking about that before. We really want to find off-market deals. Well, in what ways could you communicate that out onto social media to attract people to give you off-market deals? I know Patty talks about this a couple times where somebody just gives them deals because they're like, we're interested in buying in this area. And people will just reach out to her and give her information. Now, I haven't even talked about advertising yet. Everything I'm telling you is just done with what's available. We're not even talking about ad dollars. But problems, solutions, viewpoints. How many of you guys have salespeople? Right. Go down and talk to your salespeople. Take an inventory. What did you hear today? What did people tell you today? Because what that one person said on the phone, probably 100 people have the same thought. And that's how I think about hyper-focused marketing, where I'm always listening to what people are saying. I take every conversation that anybody ever says about their business, and I'm like, can I make a piece of content on that? You know? Where I discovered that was actually by accident when I was working for Grant and I started selling for him. I had an objection where somebody was like, well, do I really need a website to start advertising? And I didn't know what to say. And so what I did was, I got off the call, being rather new to sales, went home and I made my own video on that, posted it on my YouTube channel, sent it to him of what I really wanted to say, and I was just like, hey, here's what I think is most valuable to you because you asked me this question. I feel like I didn't do a good enough job of explaining it. Here's a video for you. We actually closed that deal because of that. And then I was like, holy crap, I can create all this content and use this for follow-up. Right? So a brand also provides you opportunity for your salespeople to follow up. And that's what we used to do with Grant. We used to take all of his content and send that out to people, just left and right all day long, left and right all day long. Okay? So for me, when I'm looking at someone that actually wants to build a presence, number one, you have to be willing to be branded, and you have to be willing to want to put the work into it. Because branding and marketing is probably one of the most frustrating things on planet Earth. It's not like an easy situation. Now, I try to do everything I can with my people to make that simple for the guys we work with, but your participation as well has to be in there at some point if you want to go that route. You also have to set some expectations for yourself, like nobody's going to be Grant Cardone in a year. You're not going to get there. You may not get there in like 2 or 3 years. You could get close. You could get some serious traction if you have a lot of money to spend, but you got to understand where other people are at versus where you're starting. And so when you enter into the first level of branding, which is just like, I just turned on all my social media platforms, what do I do now? You have to take inventory of what we just discussed. I need all the lists of topics, of problems. Objections are my favorite. I use objection marketing all the time. People that don't want to buy, I go make content on that. People that give me a hard time, I go make content on that. People that, delay deals or don't want to do deals specifically, I'll go make content on that. Because I'm not the only one that has that thought or consideration in my own industry or the industry that I'm talking to. Right? Now, I'm pretty broad. We touch pretty much every single industry that we market with, but for you guys specifically, you know what those objections are because you deal with them every single day. Make sense? So the contact sport that Eric was talking about is the same thing that we're talking about here. The original following that you get, whoever you start off with, that communication becomes a point of contact. Now, they may not buy today. They may not say anything today. It could be a 2-month deal. It could be a 2-week deal. Twitter, of all places, back in the day. I don't really try on Twitter. I just post once in a while on that platform. And out of the blue, this woman calls me up and she says, hey, I've been watching your content on Twitter. I'm ready to do business with you. I'm like, Twitter? Who the hell uses Twitter? I mean, today, a lot, actually. Twitter I like, actually, as a platform today. But back then, I was like, who's using this platform? That was a $40,000 deal. I'm like, great. Okay, Twitter works. And I'm not even really trying. So for me, I use the big 5. It's going to be Facebook. It's going to be Instagram. It's going to be LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. TikTok, cool. If you want to give your information to China, go ahead. It is a good platform for advertising, but not necessary for today. As long as you're on the main 5, I'm cool with that. There's a bunch of other ones, and people are like, well, I was talking to this guy the other day. He's like, well, what about Rumble? What about all these other ones? I'm like, you don't even have Facebook situated, and you're trying to go over here. Like, let's get these 5 dialed in. Then we can start exploring, right? So if you're not minimally on those 5, I would suggest you start with those, at least. Yeah, and that's the idea, is that we're giving people insight into who you actually are. So if you can do that, because you're already doing it on the phone, If you could do it beforehand, that's even better because by the time they get to the phone, they feel like they know you. I would say 90% of the calls that I do right now that are both cold and even outbound, they pretty much know who I am. They're like, oh, you're Robert. Okay, cool, cool, cool. They know what they're going to get because how I am on social media is how I am on the phone, is how I am when I'm doing business with somebody. And I strategically set it up that way because I wanted that whole experience to be the same all the way through. I didn't want any surprises to come from there, right? So for me, I'm looking for as many different connection points that I can make with a potential audience so that I can convert them into a sale at some point, whether organic or advertising later on. So a thing I want to go into is really just understanding the cycle of how marketing works so you guys have some preliminary data, and then we can go into like advertising, what that's going to look like, the math of advertising so you understand how campaigns break down and such. So if you were to say, hey, what's like step one, and Chris said this, it's just simply create content. That's where you have to start. Whether you have a fancy camera or not,
You don't need a camera.
you don't even really need a
You just need a
camera.
phone,
You need a phone. You need to take pictures. You need to go out to your properties. You need to walk your properties. You need to film yourself on an idea. Even if you think you're goofy, if you think you're not eloquent, it doesn't matter. You get more out of showing up and just being there than by not. Like we had a guy we were working with one time, and he delayed his promotion because he was so transfixed that his shirt was wrinkled up like this over here. And I'm like, bro, like this is why people don't make money, because you're worried about that. While your competitor already outperformed you, put all this content out, you're focused on the wrong thing. So we had to unwind some, thinking about perfection. But step one is creating content, and not just like small content. We're talking high volumes amount of content, okay? Per day, on average, I'm doing anywhere from 50 to 65 pieces of content a day. And I'm using Instagram stories for that and Facebook stories and all that, which we'll get into in a little bit, but high volumes amount of content. You want to just own and dominate the airwaves as much as you can with as many different ways to communicate as you can through all those different platforms. And a quick way to do that is honestly, if you take one video, you put that on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, that's 5. You do that twice a day, that's 10. You do that 3 times a week, you're at 30. You're at 30 posts for the week, right? And I track that stuff daily. Like I'm like, okay, how many posts did I do? How many stories did I do? And I'm looking at my income graph and my promotion graph. If this is down, this is down. If this is up, this is usually up. So these two for me are super correlated. As I said, the front line, I'm just reaching all day, every day, as often as I can. So step one is your creation of the content. The second part is going to be your actual posting or your distribution. So how often should you post? Well, let me ask you this. How many people actually have these social platforms set up right now? All 5 of them. Okay, Facebook? Nobody has Facebook? Only 4 people have Facebook set up? Okay. Instagram? Good. YouTube? Good on the YouTube people. You all need a YouTube. LinkedIn? Good. And Twitter? Okay. So Facebook, Instagram, biggest ones. Okay, fine. So let's just talk about posting and distribution. For me, minimally, because most people can't get this in. I think Eric's like a monster over there and Chris is a monster over there. But minimally, I'm like, guys, can you get 3 done a week? How do you get 3 posts out a week? Minimally. Then you can bump up, okay, how do I get to 5 a week? Once a day. Or you could do 7 days a week. I personally don't recommend posting more than 2 times a day. If you want to post 6, 7 times a day, that's great. The problem with that is that every time you post, that platform will start the process of serving your post out with the algorithm. You post again, you shut that off, and it starts over again. You shut that off, and then it starts over again. So for me, all these little posts are pieces of digital real estate that pay me back. So if a post starts to go, and I'm getting 5, 10, 20. Every single post that you do is a piece of digital real estate that can potentially provide you a lead. Every single piece. Because what do people do? If I see an ad for someone, which is later on in this cycle, I'm going to go to that guy's page, and I'm going to start scrolling, and I'm going to start looking at what he says, how he says it. I want to know what this guy or gal is. I want to know how they feel. I want to get into their ecosystem. And it could be a video that I posted 1.5 years ago that makes them say, oh, I really like this guy. I want to talk to him now. Right? So each one of those posts for me are extremely valuable, and I want them to do their job. So there'll be days where I'll do a post and I might get 300, 400, 500, 20,000 in Instagram in my case, most of the time, where I just won't post for a few days because I just want to let it go. I don't want to shut it off because it's working. Now that takes a little bit of monitoring on your half, but overall, if you do at least minimally 3 to 5 during the week, you're pretty good, pretty solid.
That's on all 5.
Yeah, all of them, yeah. Now,
Content on all 5?
literally, yeah. I mean, YouTube, you can't take a 7-minute YouTube video and put it on Instagram, although you can now. I don't really recommend doing that. I would rather take a portion of that and put that on Instagram. But you can multi-purpose post all the way across, yeah.
Have you had any experience with repurpose.io and the automated kind of function?
I don't use any automation in any way on social media at all. Any third-party automation automatically just like the platform just cuts your reach in half. Actually cuts more than that. Probably like 70% of your reach gets cut if you use like an automated posting service. We don't do that. So when we post for our clients, we are manually writing every one of those posts for them.
You said 2 times a day post?
Max, yeah.
Is it videos or pictures? Or?
Could be pictures, could be videos, reels, which I was going to get into, but stories, you could do as much as you want. That's how I get up to like the 50, 60 a day is like I'm posting. I'll do Instagram stories, which then goes to my Facebook business page, which then saves to my phone, and then I'll post that to my personal Facebook story. So I multiply all my stories out. Yeah.
As far as like YouTube goes, shouldn't it be a different content since YouTube is like for more longer videos?
Well, that's good, and kind of the reels and the YouTube thing I was just going to get into, but YouTube has shorts, Instagram has reels, and Facebook now has reels. Basically what I do is if I film a reel for Instagram, I use it as a short on YouTube. Because I don't want to spend all day doing marketing. Like I still have to make my sales calls and I still have to quality check and do all this other stuff. But I try to multi-purpose as much content as I can. And I try to, if I'm like not shooting new stuff, I go back and grab out of the stuff I've already shot and reused it. But if you're going on YouTube, you've got 2 ways to post there. I guess I could go through, we're kind of getting a little bit dispersed, but YouTube, you've got your long form, which is like your 5, 10, 20-minute long videos. And then you've got your shorts, which are like 60 seconds or so. And then Instagram, you've got your pictures, and then you can do your reels also. Yeah, which is how I do it. But I even put reels on LinkedIn. I put reels on Twitter. Like I put them, I just take that one video and it just goes in all places. So I multi-purpose it. Where was I going with this? Okay, 5 posts a week or so, going on from there. Any questions on the post or distribution?
I'm just trying to be you guys, if because I'm different, because I'm building a personal brand for my coaching. But if I'm just you guys doing real estate, every deal I buy, I'm making a post about, and I'm saying how I got it, what's the numbers on it. This is how I can give investors return, because you're able to raise so much private money. Every piece of
When you flip a house, the before and after picture.
before and after, people love that shit, right? That's building a brand. Take pictures of people want to see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and keep it really personalized too. Like, you know, there's a time and a place to pitch. There's a time and a place to sell, which is what advertising is for, which we'll get to. But the majority of your posts are just about you. They're just about you. How you see it, what you saw, why you saw it, why you're there, why you bought the deal, why you chose the color for the flooring and the cabinets.
And
You know.
tell them your profits. You know, the people will be, they'll like to say, man, wow, you made 40,000. You say, man, if you guys are interested, like do a reel and say, if you guys are interested in partnering with me on this, I paid an investor 1.12% interest. I paid him back in 3 months, and he made $5,000 and didn't have to do anything. If you're interested in something like that, inbox.
Yeah, I had a guy, he came to Mike Lee, you know Mike, right? Mike was very much like Chris. He went to 2 masterminds ago, and he's working with me now, but he didn't want to do social media. He didn't see the value in it, but he said to me, he's like, all the big players have a brand. And I was like, yeah, they do. It's true, they do. And one of the suggestions I made was like, how could you legally show the numbers of your deals that you are providing without giving away too much in your stories? And he said, oh, well, I don't know. I guess I could figure it out. So he did it, and you remember at the last one, he literally right then and there at that day had brought in a deal that he closed because he showed that information, right? So we're talking about competitive edges. We're talking about ways to stand out from everybody else. You know, even if you're going to buy your data and do the skip tracing side, this is another avenue to kind of get out in front of other people. This is another way to distinguish yourself. If that person's been called 150 times, you could send them a text message. I made a video for you. Just check this out. It's just another way that you can uniquely position yourself out in the marketplace. Okay, next part is going to be your engagement and your responses. So this is really kind of critical. I actually do respond to pretty much everybody that posts comments on my stuff. I try to. I may not get to everybody. But if somebody writes, more or less they're going to get a response from me on some level. Not only does that help my brand, but it also helps that post kind of get distributed further out. Right? So within the first few minutes of your post, you get 5 people that comment. Just get in there and like respond as fast as you can. Because Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, okay, good. This is getting activity. Let's push this back out into the marketplace. So on and so forth. So as they come in, do the communication, don't neglect the communication, and go from there. Does anybody have any questions? We haven't spent any money on advertising yet at all. This is all manual labor or us or an agency helping you. We have not talked anything about money with spends yet.
I want to add to that before you know, if you get into spending a bunch of money on that, like I used to spend a ton of money on ads because when you first build a brand, you want to spend money to get your name out there. But then once people start following you and you start putting out good organic content, they'll share it and you ain't got to spend more money on that. I haven't spent money on ads in 2 years. But in the beginning, I was spending hundreds of thousands.
You spend a lot, yeah.
I spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Probably $1 million in my personal brand, but I don't have to do it no more.
But it does plateau out where it's like, oh, okay, now the engine's working for me.
Once you get it off the ground, it goes on itself.
Yeah.
You keep putting out content, good quality content that people are going to share. Like, you know, sales goes doing a phenomenal job with that. You know, some other people I know, it grows on its own organically.
Yeah. This part forward is where people give up in branding. Everything I'm about to tell you right now, from this moment forward, is where people are like, branding sucks, advertising sucks, I don't want to do this, I'm not going to spend money, I'm not going to do this anymore. And if you could survive the next part of this and kind of just keep this engine moving, your brand will do exactly what Chris is doing. It will do what Cardone's is doing. So if you've ever been frustrated, like, I don't understand why this isn't working, I don't understand why my brand is not where I want it to be yet, it's because you probably didn't go through enough cycles of this and you didn't sustain this part long enough, right? So we've got our content, you know, we've got our problems, we looked at our business, we checked everything out, we started doing some posting, we're getting some engagement, things are moving, we started engaging with people. Now we're like, okay, I would like to reach new people, what am I going to do? So now we start looking at actually spending money. So the next step of this is going to be advertising, which I caveat that as like part 1, which is just focused solely on awareness campaigns for yourself. So advertising is broken into a couple of different ways. You have awareness, you have lead generation, and you have product sales. And then you have registrations. And then you have email list growing, but that's kind of part of lead gen. But for me, when it comes to advertising, the first thing I do with everybody is I'm like, good, we've got all this content, we've got all this stuff going. Let's just focus on awareness for right now. You guys keep doing your sales calls. You keep doing all the work you're doing. You've got your website. Somewhere in here you should have had a website built if you didn't have one. Somewhere, whether it's a single page or it's the full deal. Somewhere in there that should have happened. I forgot to mention that. But right now, all we're going to do is just take some of our best performing content that got the most engagement based on what people said to us, and we're going to put dollars behind that. Whatever you want to spend. You want to spend 500, you want to spend 20 grand, you want to spend 100 grand, you want to spend 200 grand, whatever. Divide that budget up and just focus on this, because now you're moving into what you hear everybody talk about as building out your audience. Now that audience isn't so much the number of followers that you have. That audience is actually behind the platform that you can't see. You can't, unless you're in like Facebook Ad Manager or Google Ad Manager, these back end of the platforms, you won't see this information. But I will tell you that anybody that engaged with your post or saw your post automatically goes into this. When you start running ads, anybody that saw that ad, whether they liked it or didn't or scrolled past it, gets put into here. The very first thing, and this is why lead generation fails, this is why product sales fail, is because they bypass this and they go right to lead gen, or they go right to awareness and they spend $20, $30, $50,000. They're crap leads, they don't convert, and you give up and you're like, I hate advertising. All advertisers are a scam. Like, I get that all the time. Like, you guys are a scam. I'm like, you didn't follow the process. If sales has a process, marketing has a process. And if you violate the process, you don't get the results. I'm just saying, it is what it is. So step one for me, awareness, because I want to build this up. I want to build. I'll give you an example. If you spend $1,000 for a month, you'll probably reach around 50 to 100,000 people if we're just doing awareness. Maybe more, right? But that's now 100,000 people that I didn't have access to over here. I do it for another month. I'm up, let's say, 200,000. Okay, I spent $2,000 to reach 200,000 people that now I can really start marketing to. So I spend 90 days, 45 days building this, serving them. Who am I? Hey, this is what's going on. You know, this is what people really ask me about. This is what they're interested in. And they come into here, and let's say in 6 months, I've now grown my audience to 600,000, 700,000 people. Big town, small town, just use the numbers as like a guide. Maybe you're not maybe there's only 200,000 people in your town, or area. Like it's the same methodology. Once I get through this, and I really pay attention to how people respond to that, and you will get leads out of this. Don't think you won't. Like, you will get comments, you will get people to engage, you will get people to ask, hey, can you help me? I would like X, Y, and Z. I've got a deal. I want to work with you. You know, Chris is posting pictures of his checks. You know, people are like, dude, how do I get checks like that? It's all coming because of awareness. But once you get through this part, the next part is where you start getting super aggressive, and that's your lead generation campaigns. So these are your lead gens, this is your free registrations, this is your join my email list, this is growing my database. You could even theoretically do that here if you wanted to on your website. You could build like an offering of something of like, hey, you know, get on my buyers list, or if you want to be connected to upcoming deals or something like that, you could do that in that audience phase. But if you really want to get the quality people, I would do it here. Right? And so now what's happened? So we've built our audience up. We're at 200,000. Now we start moving into lead generation campaigns, your Google pay-per-click campaigns, your keyword campaigns. And you can do this on both platforms, by the way. Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They all do the same. They just have, some have better control over it than the others. But at this point is where you can start getting aggressive. So here you can ask them, okay, do you want to invest? Well, you can't really do investing, but you can do certain things of like, hey, if you want to be part of my community, something like that, this is where you start to make this magic happen. Or even with some of the wholesalers that we work with, we do the same exact process, and we get them in here, and we get them cheaper leads that are actually qualified, and then they're able to convert and sell. But you have to go through this to get to that. If you just came to me and you're like, I want to do lead generation, I'd be like, cool the jets, let's back it up a little bit, let's give it like 30 days of this, at least 45 days of this before we start attacking this. And once you move through this, you just repeat this cycle over and over and over and over and over, and it never stops. This is the engine. At one point, your brand will get so large, you'll get your followers out of this, you get your traction out of that, and then you'll become Chris Ruud of Grant Cardone, where you post a video and people just flock to it and they're involved. But you don't get there unless you go through this mechanism here, right? Inside of this, on the other side, as we start building this, this is where your email campaigns come into play. Somebody had asked about emails before. This is the part where you drop that in. So if you have a CRM, whatever that CRM is, you drop that in. You can take content to nurture them. You could do all that stuff. You can have events. You can have webinars. You can have free all this going on. At this point is where you actually go in and you have conversation with them with email. Different events like Chris is doing this event, that's the opportunity when that happens. But this cycle right here, you violate that cycle, you don't get the results. Yeah.
The first go around of the cycle, you had said something in passing real quick, but I caught it. You only promote proven content.
I said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no,
Proven.
I'm asking because
Proven content?
like content that already has established traction.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Good question. So here, so I'm looking at posts that did pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not new content. You're trying to promote.
Yeah, I'm going to, at the beginning, I'm going to take what, even if I got like 5 likes over 1 like, I'll be like, okay, that's an increase in statistic. Okay, I'll base that off of numbers, and I'll take that and I'll run ads with it. because that was better. You can even see like the viewage, you can use
You
that.
don't go right into a raw
Not typically,
content
no.
that you sponsor right off.
Not at the beginning, not at the beginning. But as we start to go on the cycle, you'll start getting indicators on that, and then you can start changing out your ads from time to time. Yeah.
And the website, do you tend to focus on something specific like lead capture or nurturing or sales pitch?
Oh, you can. You can do all the above. I'll
Or
give.
you do a whole complete thing?
I can give you an example of that. Does everybody have this? I can erase that and get rid of this. Yeah. So websites, as part of the brand, typically I try, if I can, to brand the person, and then we build out from there. So we would have like the individual person to begin as like the main deal, and then you can build out your individual like sales pages, and you can have like one of those. You can have as many of these as you want. I just want to keep the domain or whatever that is the base, because as I build off that, I get more authority, and I actually can lower my costs for advertising as I progress. So some people will say like, oh, well, do you build in ClickFunnels? We do build in ClickFunnels. I prefer not to, because ClickFunnels takes me out of being able to use a lot of Google stuff the way that I want to do it. You know what I mean? So the website could be a simple page, or it could be a big thing. You know, if you look at Grant's pages, it's like, what the fuck? It's just like huge, right? So you could do something that extreme, or you could do something that simple. We have some clients that we have a coaching, they do insurance agents, agency consulting, and they have like 56 pages, and we manage all 56 of those pages. So it could be quite large, yeah. Somebody else had a question, yeah.
On the advertisement, where you mentioned that the content or video that build traction,
Mm-hmm.
and then move it to the advertisement, you mean pay so it can be shown more,
Mm-hmm.
but no, does it have to have a website? Does it have to?
Doesn't have to.
be there, or-
No, it doesn't really have to, no. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can market and spend money and advertise. There's boosting posts and all of that. Without getting too complex, excuse me, you have boosts, which there's a button when you go to like any Instagram post that'll ask you if you want to boost that post. And honestly, I'll be straight up with you, some of the best deals I've gotten have actually come from boosting. Because I let Instagram decide based on who interacts with my posts, what works and what doesn't. So at like one time, I think I've had like 10 or 12 boosted posts running for like, I don't know, $10, $12 a day. And that brings in a ton of conversations for me.
Especially on your really good piece of content.
Yeah, on the really good pieces of content, it works really well. And you can boost on Facebook too, which is great. Like I mean, if you just want to test some things out on your own and see how it goes, like you could literally just boost some of your own content and watch how it runs. If you really want to get technical, you want to build out all these kind of crazy campaigns that we do, you would do that in the backside of Facebook, which is where we go in and manage it, or you manage it, and that becomes super tactical. But just the basic boosting, like if you guys doing posts about deals or a possible thing that's coming up, you'll definitely get traction from that, for sure.
So does it have to be a video?
No, it could be a picture, it could be a video, it could be a reel, yeah. I've had pictures respond really well. I find that from a boosted post, videos do extremely well. They're way better than pictures, yeah, because they stop, they look, it gives them an opportunity to kind of explore who I am. Yeah.
Is there a certain time that you post? What do you recommend? Certain time?
That is a great question. These platforms actually give you that information. Yeah, so if you go into, I don't have my, we don't have the screen here, but in YouTube, for example, how many of you guys have used YouTube? You guys have your little profile picture on the top right. You've seen that up there. If you go in there, there's an option to go into your studio, and inside of analytics, it will actually tell you the time your viewers are mostly on your channel and where they are. So it'll be like, okay, the majority of your people watch from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. You post during that time, Monday through Friday. Facebook also gives you that information too. Yeah. For me, the rule of thumb, because having managed so many different accounts and businesses, usually it's before 11 a.m. or after 6 p.m. That middle of the day thing doesn't really work out, really, except on weekends. But even then, it's a little sketchy. But just based on all the stuff that I've seen and how many accounts we manage right now, before 11 or after 6. Yeah, but these platforms give you that information of like when's the best time to go.
8:30 p.m. too is
Yeah.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recommend more than 2 times.
No, I mean it'd be too much. Like it just cuts. It just cuts your reach, which you don't want to do. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Schedule your post like on Facebook?
You can, yeah. So
Instead of
that's
having to
fine.
do it daily?
Yeah, so you can they have the Meta Business Suite where you could just schedule out all your posts for the week. So you could do that on like a Monday, and you don't have to worry about it. It's done. YouTube also lets you do that too. Yeah. Any questions about the advertising side of things or anything like that? The build out, the scale. No? Yeah.
How do you know you're ready for advertising?
I would say probably if you're like brand new and you just started, I would give it at least a month of like activity before you start spending some money. And then once you get past that point, you could start your awareness campaigns, let that run for probably a second month, like another 30 days, 45 days. Start watching like, how are these things responding? Are people communicating? Do I have the right audience? Now this gets really technical. But once you start seeing that data, then you can start getting really aggressive into that. You can also target, like you could take, if you really want to fast track, let's say you guys have, how many of you have databases? Like a CRM with emails? Yeah. So if you really want to fast track it and kind of bypass, what you could do is you could ingest everybody out of your CRM into Facebook, and you could tell Facebook to go find people like these people. That's called a lookalike audience. You could do that on Google as well, where it just, you'd say you got 2,000 people, Facebook will just take all 2,000 and start profiling those people, and it'll serve and find people that are like them based on their profiles for you. So that's a way you could fast track it as well.
What's a good CRM you use for that?
There's a bunch. There's Constant Contact, there's HubSpot, there's MailChimp, there's Infusionsoft, which you need a doctorate degree to really understand. There's, what else is out there that we've used? Go High Level is the new one that we've been using a lot of. That's actually pretty cool. You can build websites right within that. And there's other ones, like I think Investor Carrot, even one we've worked with you guys, with some wholesalers. They have their own CRM, I think. Huh? No, I haven't used that one.
Use MailChimp. It's super easy to use.
Yeah.
MailChimp?
Yeah, MailChimp.
Yeah.
But all this is going to do, if you build a brand, guys, just hyperdrive your business. That's all it does. If you build a brand behind your business.
And I think it's really cool because it ties into, like, you heard from Eric, who's talking to you about sales. You heard from these guys that are talking about processes. This is just the other arm. This is the arm that has to be there.
And here's the thing. It's free.
Yeah.
Never in world history have we been allowed to better connect with so many people for $0. I mean, 20 years ago, you had to, with all the people you connected with on social media, that would have cost you $10,000, $20,000 a month to better pay newspaper ads, radio, and you can connect all these people for free. If you put out good content, people share it, and it's free. The work is your effort to put out the content.
Let me tell you a story. So when I was working with Grant, I realized it was interesting because he started transitioning away from being in the office. It started becoming more about real estate. So I didn't have this asset there to help promote anymore. And I had that realization. I was like, oh, I can't rely on him because he's going to go play this big game with real estate, and he's coming off this thing, which is where most of the, because I scaled an agency inside his company. I was the entrepreneur. I was making 26 grand a year. When I left in 2018, I was making 475,000 because I learned to sell, and then I found all these opportunities, and then I scaled an agency myself based on that. But what I did was I started building my own brand on social media while I worked for him, and I was getting a lot of attention. And while I was doing that, I was bringing in deals to help grow that agency that he owned. And so when I left in 2018, I had an NDA, so I couldn't talk about marketing, advertising, and any of that stuff. And I still do this to this day, honestly. When I left, I ran out of all my cash savings in about 90 days, which scared the hell out of me. But how I solved that problem was I just started posting my own viewpoints about life, my own viewpoints about what I learned, my lifestyle, what I did. Nobody really knew what the financial hardship I was going through, but that's how I scaled my business. Like my first deal was like $4 grand, and that was my rent, and change back in 2019. And then I scaled the business up from there. So everything I'm telling you is exactly what I do, is exactly what I have my clients do. And it's an improved upon model of what I used to do when I worked with the 10X crew, right? but it's a little bit more of an accessible model because you look at some of these guys, you look at like Gary Vaynerchuk or Ty Lopez, you're like, they are so in the stratosphere. It's like, how can we even touch that? But what we do and how I approach it is to make it palatable so that you can take action today and rise to that level throughout the years as you go. Is really the deal.
Do you make the most business off your surfing posts?
Literally, yes. Like I'll do a video about surfing and people will talk to me like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm down here in Costa Rica. I have a surf competition. Oh, cool. What do you do? And I tell them what I do and like, oh my God, I need help with that. And then that turns into a deal. And that's 90% of my business. The rest is inbound leads.
Eric, how many more houses are you getting to build from customers from you just posting on social media and seeing the beautiful work that you're doing?
We've got 3 customers.
Just from social media that you're building their house, and you didn't spend no money on that. It was a referral just from posting content about a previous house you built. And what do you make on those 3 houses when they're done? Probably $1 million bucks, $500,000 on each one.
Yeah.
So $1.5 million in gross profits from posting on social media.
Yeah.
If you're not doing this, you're handicapping yourself as an entrepreneur. I'm just being honest with you. So we're about to wrap it up. If you want to work with Robert, this is why I bring him to all my masterminds. I mean, I worked with him 7, 8 years ago. It changed the trajectory of my business. It's a game changer. You don't have to do it, but you should do it. And it doesn't have to be a huge leap and just jumping on social media and being all goofy. Just take a picture. You don't even have. Let's just say you do a Facebook Live or a reel. Don't even put your face. Just put the real estate and just talk. And you're not even looking at the camera. And that way you don't feel like, oh shit, I'm looking at myself. Just walk around and show what you're doing, and talk about how you got the deal and how you want to partner with people, and if they want to, if they want to put money in your deal, or hey, if you find a deal, reach out to me. I can help you with it. Doing simple stuff like that will get you so many organic deals and add another 30% to your bottom line, maybe 40% that you're not already doing. So, but if you want to work with Robert, Robert, you're gonna be here all week.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be here all week for sure. Yeah, I mean, really, that's the thing is like we wanted to fast track that for people. So we go out, I go and film. I did Dan yesterday. We shot a bunch of content for his marketing that we're going to work with. So like if you need assistance on that, I'd be more than happy to talk to you and help you out with it. But I do have a full agency out of Miami, It's my passion. It's what I do every day. So
And you'll go meet him at the.
I will fly to you. I will literally fly to you wherever you are. We'll work together. We'll shoot in a day, and then we'll take over all your social and handle all that for you if you want. All the content, build the sites, whatever needed and wanted. Just remember that we're going to go through that cycle because that's the cycle we're going to do. It's the correct foundation, right? You don't build the roof without the cement in the ground, right? So we got to do that right. But if you want to add some nitrous to it, we can do that too, which is really our game. So
Awesome.
really appreciate your time, guys. I really do. Thank you.